Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of My Week in Horror. I am the Artie Dans. My apologies for last week. I caught the dreaded COVID again, and so thus I was feeling rather terrible and decided maybe it was best I skip a week. But I'm back for another episode, this time Popcorn Pictures. These are movies that are inherently terrible, like they are just not, they would never rate highly, but are a lot of fun to watch as popcorn flicks. And we all know the types of horror movies that are just, they're so stupidly crazy, but you just have to watch them. So I've picked, well, I haven't picked them, a friend of the channel who essentially programs this whole channel for me, has provided these movies for me. And I think there's some great selections in here. So tonight's lineup of popcorn pictures includes Night of the Killer Bears from Thailand. That's the newest in this list. We go back to 2000 in Korea to look at Record. A relatively newish movie, 2019 from Taiwan called Karma. And we're going to finish off with a wacky, crazy, wild Indonesian film from 2010 called Taring Dedemit Hutan Werenigi. However you say that. And I've probably really butchered it and maybe offended half of the population of the world. My apologies. Let's check out tonight's first movie, which is from Thailand. Thanks, Dan. This movie has a cool poster. It really does. And I'm about to cover it on an episode of Dude, I Watched a Fucked Up Movie last night. So that kind of gives you a bit of an indication about where this movie goes. Night of the Killer Bears has a great looking poster with a teddy bear on it with a knife or a machete, and you just think, wow, it's going to be like Ted with murderers. Kind of's not. So let's check out the synopsis first. Set in a quirky resort deep in the Thai countryside, a group of friends arrange a catch-up to mourn the loss of a friend in a tragic accident 2 years prior. However, a group of mysterious bears, or more precisely people in bear costumes, seem to be hunting them down and killing them off in very gory fashion. The friends, which include a very cute girl, her boyfriend, their budding actress friend, a hard-on-himself workaholic, and a stoner, try to survive the onslaught of these killers while simultaneously trying to work out if they've stumbled across a gang of murderers or if they are really the intended target. If you're going to make a movie, a slasher movie about people in bear costumes, I'm going to watch it because that to me sounds crazy. And this is not a very long movie, which is great, 90 odd minutes. Now, it has a chunk of it, about 30 minutes, that are a bit dead as it tries to work on building up the suspense. And what this movie actually reminds me of, you're going to think I'm crazy, what this movie reminds me of is the Thai movie The Maid from a couple of years ago with Ploy Sananan, the very gorgeous Ploy Sananan. And the reason why it reminds me of it is because it's from the same person, the same writer, Lee Thongenkamp, who directed that, didn't direct this one, but he's the writer of this film. And so if you've seen The Maid, it gives you a bit of an indication about where this movie heads. And the great thing about The Maid was that last third of the movie, where the movie just snaps and turns into something completely different and what you're not expecting. And while you're expecting violence and you're expecting carnage in Night of the Killer Bears, you're probably not expecting how it happens. And the twist that's behind it. The twist is stupid because the movie logically doesn't flow with any great storyline. Just stuff happens. It's just collections of scenes put together, but it's fun. I mean, it starts off with two characters that really have no involvement in the movie at all, other than to both get decapitated. And the decapitation is fantastic. I know it's CGI, but it looks good and is fucking gory. And that's a great way to start a movie, just having two decapitations. And then you get another kill of a woman getting her breast cut out. Oh, that is fucking great. Like, pure sadisticness. She's in the shower, she gets stabbed in her left breast, and he just rips the knife out, and you see the boob attached to the knife. It's clearly fake, but looks great. And another person gets killed by getting sliced in half. That is awesome. That, again, CGI, but it just looks great. There's some shitty CGI in it too. At the start, where the hot girl Aim and her boyfriend are driving to the resort, there's a really bad blue screening, green screening of her hair, which is really weird because the murder effects are good, But the most simplest effect in the movie is shithouse. There's other issues with the film in regards to plot cohesion. And talking to some people, we kind of think that AIM owns the resort. And that's why she's able to get all this stuff done. And, oh, whoops, spoiler, sorry. Sorry, really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But now I've started, so I might as well continue. Yeah, she's the mastermind behind it. Shit, I really shouldn't have spoiled it. I'm really sorry about that. But what I did like was the other female character. She's a brutal murderer, and you see that in the trailer, that she just goes a bit psychotic with the way that she butchers everyone. So the movie scores with violence, scores with blood, it scores with a bit of nudity, although it's fake, so maybe it doesn't score with that. It doesn't score with plot cohesion. That doesn't make any sense. There's also a really silly bit at the end where they're attacking a person in a bear suit, and they're attacking the head. And the head is the most padded part of the suit. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you attack the body? Why are you attacking the head? Because they're hitting the head, and their weapon is bouncing off the head and knocking themselves out. It's both funny and stupid, but that adds to the whole movie. The movie has a great charm to it. It really does. It has very low ratings. Kind of ignore that. If you're after just a very silly slasher movie from anywhere in Asia, but specifically from Thailand, you can't do a lot worse than this. This is a lot of fun. All the movies in this episode, if I was to rate them normally with the ghost rating, they would be 1 or 2 ghosts. So that gives you the indication of all the movies. But when I rate this movie now, using the ghost rating, I'm not rating it for its overall quality. I'm rating it for its fun. And I think this movie is a lot of fun. So I'm giving it 4 ghosts out of 5, purely for fun. This is not a reflection of the quality of the film and how good it is. It's a reflection of how fun it is. Because that's what this episode's about. Popcorn pictures. You can grab popcorn. You can grab a drink of your choice. Beer, Coke. Sit there and watch it and just be entertained for 90 minutes. This movie will do that for you. It will entertain you and you will enjoy it. And you get a bunch of cute Thai girls to go with it. So 4 ghosts out of 5 for pure entertainment value. Night of the Killer Bears. I recommend it. On to the next movie from Korea. Thanks, Dan. So now we're going to look at a Korean movie that, when we start talking about it, will become very obvious what the influences behind this movie were. Now, bear in mind, this was made in 2000, so we're looking 23 years ago. And this movie has not aged that well. But first, let's check out what the movie's about. While on a small break before summer school begins, a group of friends perform a prank on an awkward classmate that results in his accidental death. But as they try and hide the evidence of their crime, his body disappears. 1 year later, and the friends are being stalked by a mysterious figure in yellow who takes pleasure at hunting them down and killing them, including anyone else who gets in his way, or its way. The students must now work out what's going on. Is their classmate back from the dead, or is someone plotting his revenge? Straight away, there are 2 very big American movies that this one is influenced by. So the obvious one is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Very obvious. Because you've got the friends, an accidental death, a cover-up of a murder, and then fast forward a year, all getting hunted down. Now that is the MO for I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I Know What You Did Last Summer is a great film. I love it. The other movie that it kind of takes inspiration from is Scream. With the multiple killers side of it. And that's what you get with this movie. You get multiple killers as well. This is very early Korean slasher type films. I actually don't know too much about Korean horror, which is why I don't tend to cover it too much, because I really don't know too much about it. But I don't believe there are too many Korean slasher movies this early on, being 2000. And this movie is very much inspired by American movies. The characters feel like they're American characters. You got jocks, pretty girls, you got nerdy guys, you got the girl who's so but cautious. I mean, you can pretty much pick every character in the movie and reflect it back onto I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's exactly it. All those characters kind of can be identified straight away. The movie uses this trope where they don't want to. They need some money for school. It's not a trope. Sorry, let's start that again. the movie does this thing where they want some money for their school break. So what they decide to do is they want to film a prank video on their friend of murdering him. But clearly, the whole thing is supposed to be staged. It's just a fake snuff movie. And they plan to make some money with it. Right? And it looks good, what they're trying to do. And hence why you've got the title of Record and why there's a bit of, handheld camera footage there. Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make this snuff movie. The problem is they go a little bit too far and accidentally kill him. They plunge the knife too deep. Now, why you wouldn't have used a prop knife if you were doing this? Yes, maybe the reaction of him wouldn't have been as legit. But why you would actually want to go ahead and stab him, starting to question these people straight away. But besides the point, they do the deed, and again, follows the whole MO of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, this movie is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. To me, it felt like at times that it was just an opportunity or an excuse to promote a couple of websites. Because I noticed throughout the movie there are quite a few URLs to websites that are probably long gone. That pop up all throughout the movie. And there's lingering shots too. There's one shot of a car where the camera pans out and it pans out to a sticker over the fuel cap. And it just lingers there for far too long. Long enough so that anyone who's watching the movie can go, oh yeah, www.blablabla.com and go to it. The movie's also strangely edited. There's some really weird editing that goes on here where it jumps around with no flow. There's one scene, it's towards the start where they're at the kind of service station, and they someone's chasing someone, and then all of a sudden there's this hard cut to a different character, but there's no kind of flow on from the shot that just happened beforehand, and so you kind of feel, was there a bit cut out of this movie, or is it just bad writing? Maybe that's what it is. But it is fun to watch. And that's the whole purpose of the movie. So, unlike Scream, where you're introduced to the killer very early on, but you don't know that's the killer, this movie kind of introduces you to who the killers are. But to get that link is really, it's not there. The movie has to tell you what that link is. And it doesn't make any sense. Especially towards the end when they're in the ambulance. I mean, that bit's really kind of doesn't make sense. But it's a teen slasher. It's not supposed to make sense. Like the previous movie, Night of the Killer Bears. It's not supposed to make sense. It's just supposed to be fun for you to watch. And that's what this movie is. A bunch of awful teenagers getting killed by a mysterious character, all dressed in yellow. If this does not scream I Know What You Did Last Summer to you, then you haven't seen I Know What You Did Last Summer. So using the ghost rating, which as I said, all these movies are 1 or 2 ghosts. This one's probably a 2 ghost film. But using the ghost rating, great horror or stupid trash, for popcorn pictures, a lot of fun. This gets 4 because of how similar it is to I Know What You Did Last Summer. Because it has that Korean vibe. And because it's actually not a bad film. It's fun. It has its issues, but it's still fun. Would I pick this over the previous movie? No, I would still go with Night of the Killer Bears. But if you come across this film called Record, I don't know, I can't pronounce the Korean title, give it a shot. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And I'd like to know what you think of it if you've seen it. Now, a short message from me. Pardon the interruption, everyone. I thought I'd just take a brief moment of your time to tell you about how The Arty Dans is on all those social media sites. So firstly, you can find me on Facebook at Arty Dans. You can find me on Instagram at The Arty Dans. You can find me on Reddit as The Arty Dans. You can also find me on the web at www.theartydans.com. And you can also find me on Odyssey as, take a guess, The Arty Dans. Thank you, and let's get back to the video. Thank you, Dan, for that short message. Yes, they're all the socials that you can catch me on, and there's also Substack. So the artydans.substack.com you can also go to. That's where I do some writing, post videos. There's much better alerts on there than there is in YouTube. It's all for free. It doesn't cost you anything, and there's no advertising on Substack either. So go over there and maybe please subscribe to the channel. I'll put the URL on the screen below. It'd be great to have some more people subscribed. I also want to have a shout out to my first ever channel member. So thank you. Thank you for joining. That's pretty cool. I'm going to pop your name up here. But yeah, thanks. Channel member. That's pretty cool. We're halfway through tonight's episode, and we've still got 2 more movies to go. So now we're going to flip forward to 2019, and we're going to go to Taiwan. And we're going to check out a film called Karma. Let's check out the synopsis. Told from the perspective of the Angel of Death, this Final Destination style movie follows a young teacher starting out at a new school that's hiding a terrible secret. The cover up of the death of a very clever student by a gang of bullies jealous of his achievements. His achievement is the creation of a very advanced AI system, which the bullies take over for use for themselves. But everyone involved with his death, including stand-bys who accidentally got in the way, are getting picked off one by one in very gruesome and graphic ways. So the person who supplied all the movies for this episode said to me, Dan, this is Taiwan's Final Destination. And I kind of agree with him. So the big difference with Final Destination was that at least at the start, you got to see how everyone dies. And then, of course, the scenario plays out and they all die differently. This kind of doesn't happen here, but essentially what he means by Final Destination style was 2 things. One is that the deaths are kind of predicted, and 2, that they're very gruesome and they're very well done. A lot of the deaths in this film are very well done. And you have to hand it to Taiwan for not holding back. Now, all the movies in this episode are kind of movies that you would think you've all seen their Western equivalents, and most likely American. You've all seen their American equivalents before. And it's really great to have Asia take over to do these types of movies, rather than Asia doing the typical ghost movies and the haunted possession movies and all that other kind of stuff. They're doing these kind of wacky, crazy horrors that people really like. This movie is gory. And it's good gory. And it's fun gory. And the deaths are really unexpected. A lot of them. Like when the steel beam crushes the principal, like that's fucking wow. Like the fucking blood fountain is wow. That's cool. Even the kid who gets cut by the lighting rig. I mean, he gets cut and just how everything just slowly just falls apart. Now, I know we've seen that before in other horror movies before, but it's great to have it all in one little package here. And the movie does its kills it spaces them out really well. It adds a little bit of humor to it. There's a bit of annoying humor. There's a particular character, the vice principal, and his little side secretary, sexual sidekick. They're a bit annoying, but they add a bit of humor to the movie. And then we've got this teacher that's the red herring in the movie. That's thrown in to kind of distract you from really what's going on. And I think what a lot of people will forget when they're watching the movie is the intro, where we're introduced to the Angel of Death, who tells you about karma and people getting revenge for things that they've done. And that's his job, is to make sure that those people get their revenge. Those people get their comeuppance, I should say. And it ends with the Angel of Death as well. And I like that. I like this bookmarked perspective of having that kind of character in there. It gives the movie a bit of personality. And the movie does have great personality. It reminds me a bit of Remember, the Karada Sagashi. It's not afraid to kill its cast off in very graphic ways and give you the end results. Where the movie kind of falls apart was where it tries to explain the backstory of why the deaths are occurring. I feel the movie slowed a bit too much to a crawl at that point. And it was great to actually get some backstory behind what was going on, because clearly these bully characters are not as what's the word I'm looking for? This is COVID brain kicking in. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but they're not as friendly. That's not the right word. As they appear to be. They're not as helpful. It's clearly something sinister going on there. And again, all the deaths look great, but the movie's let down by a really poor looking CGI cat. It looks really, really bad. Kind of reminds me of the Chinese horror movie Dark Flight that has the same kind of black cat in it. Just something wrong with it. Doesn't look good. But everything else is fine. Acting wise, it's pretty solid. Cast does their job well. You get your blends, just like the previous movie, you get your blends of the different kind of characters, although this is very much more male orientated than female orientated in regards to characters. But you can do a lot worse than this movie. Now, I don't know how hard it really is to find, because this was the first time I'd heard about this film when it was provided to me. So I'm actually I'm actually hoping that if you are interested in it, there's an easier way to find it. But having such a generic title probably is not going to make it easy for you to find. Under a normal ghost rating, I would have given this 3 ghosts, because I actually do like this film. And then looking at it in the perspective of a popcorn film, unfortunately, it gets the same rating, because I think while it's fun, it's also got an element of seriousness to it. And, that's the Final Destination bit, is the fun bit, but the seriousness kind of brings it down a bit. So it gets 3 ghosts for both overall and 3 ghosts for being popcorn, a popcorn picture. Not as fun as the first 2 movies we've looked at. But the next movie we're going to look at is probably the most batshit insane. So let's check it out. Indonesia. What would we do without you? When I started to really get heavily into Southeast Asian horror films, I never expected that Indonesia would be the country that would give me so much quality. And also so much shit. Like, I was getting a lot of shit from China and not much quality. Indonesia gives me both. This one firmly falls in the middle of both shit and quality. This is from the same guy who directed that Jenglot movie that I covered in a previous episode, as well as an episode of Dude, I Watched a Fucked Up Movie Last Night. Rizal Montevani, I think his name is. And he directed Kuntilanak, my favorite Indonesian horror movie. This guy went off the rails. He teamed up with Rapi Films, which if you know anything about Rapi Films, fucking insane. It's like Shaw Brothers on steroids with their crazy shit that they do, right? He teamed up with them and just went nuts making these crazy films. And this is no exception. Taring Dedimit Hutang Werengini. Werengini is the name of the forest. Let's check out what this movie is about. A rich businessman who owns a lingerie company organizes a photo shoot. Start again. A rich businessman who owns a lingerie company organizes a photo shoot deep in an Indonesian forest that, unbeknownst to him, belongs to a vicious group of mysterious creatures. With him in the group are 3 models, a photographer and his sister, a campy makeup artist, and another guy whose role is not clear but makes perfect cannon fodder for the creatures. The creatures like to hunt pregnant women, and wouldn't you know it, one of the models is pregnant. But the creatures are also afraid of light, and they use that knowledge to their advantage. From the outset, you know this is not going to be a serious movie, and it's only 85 odd minutes long. So it's not much of an investment that you have to give this film. But the purpose of this movie is just to have the 3 girls model in bikinis and lingerie. Now, shock horror, I'm actually not a fan of tattoos. So I kind of not getting into these girls because of all those tattoos. And I know maybe I'm the weird person in this modern society where everyone just covered head to fucking toe in tattoos. Not for me. And the main actress in it has tattoos here, tattoos there, fucking all in her thigh. Just kind of, all right. But you know what? Hey, that's cool. If that's what the director wants, go for it. And there's an audience for this. Clearly there is an audience for this. And there is a really young boys wet dream fantasy scene in this movie where the girls finish their photo shoots and all of a sudden they decide to take off their tops and swim in the water. And then they call the photographer's sister, who's all dressed up because, she's not the model, and they call her to come in the water. And wouldn't you know it, underneath her clothes, she's got a bikini ready to rock and roll. And she jumps in the water and she also takes off her top. Now, you don't see any boobs. This is an Indonesian movie. You're not getting any nudity here, right? But it's just that eluded nudity in this film. Anyway, moving on. The ghosts, the creatures are horrendous looking. I've got a sneaking suspicion, and I can't remember which one's come first, this or Jenglot, but I think the masks have been reused because a lot of the teeth shit seems to be the same. Now, what confused me about the creature So I thought there was one creature, but there appears to be multiple creatures, male and female creatures, because there are some shots where, you see the chest of the character and it's flat. So you're like, well, that's not a female, right? And then there's other shots of characters that are, quite shapely. And you're like, well, that looks like a female shape. So I think there must be at least two different creatures in this film. And they do the backwards crab walk, which looks pretty cool, actually. And big props out to the actress or actor who did that bit. Ooh, it looked pretty cool. I don't quite remember if we get any backstory on the creatures other than this really short bit in the intro at the start where there's a couple of villagers doing some kind of sacrifice to it. I don't really, and I don't really get the whole pregnant bit, and I don't get the whole flashing of the light to kind of defeat these monsters bit, but it does what it does. Now, like the last movie, this follows in the tradition of Remember, of Karada Sagashi, that it's not afraid to kill off its cast. And by the end of the movie, everyone's dead. Everyone is dead. That doesn't happen very often in horror movies. So just bear that in mind if you're going to watch this. Don't get attached to a single character. But they all kind of deserve it because I think they're all cunts, to be honest. None of them are very likable. So, boom. Oh, except for the sister. She's actually she's nice. She's a great character. Otherwise, I don't really know what else to tell you about the movie. The effects are all done in practical style. And practical effects, I love them. And you love them too. I know you love them, right? When a movie does practical effects, they're good. And they are good in this film. But there's not too much blood. I don't remember there being too much blood. Oh, yes, there is. Sorry. I fucking tell a lie. There's a lot of devoweling. A lot of intestine eating. So, yes, there is a lot of gore in the film. It looks stupid. It just looks like a whole bunch of people eating weird sausages. But, usually that's what it is. Hey. There's a really good kill. One of the first ones. It's clearly practical effects. It's a rubber mask, right? But where the creature puts its hand through the guy's mouth and just kind of starts ripping it open. I'm going to put up some footage if I can. That is fucking great. That's a great way. That happens within the first, I think, 20, 30 minutes of the movie. That is fucking great. Well done. The budget spent on doing that effect, even though the face kind of looks a bit weird, is great. So thus, if you're like creature features, if you like wacky Indonesian movies, if you like sexy girls with tattoos, and if you like unnecessary scenes of T and A without the actual T and A, this is down your alley. This is like Jenglot, but with not as many pretty girls and with a different kind of monster. And clearly that's the director's new MO. He's just gone, fuck it, I'm not doing serious movies anymore. I'm just doing shit. Now, I haven't heard much from this guy lately. I think he's gone back to making Kuntilanak movies. I'll have to follow that up. But clearly he went off the rails a little bit. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he got some good money to do this. Maybe Rapi Films came up to him and said, hey, you want to make some fucked up shit? He said, yeah, I'll make some fucked up shit. As long as there's money there. And he found enough people to help him do it. If I was rating this movie with the normal ghost rating, it wouldn't get high. It'd probably get a 1 ghost. It's pretty shit, that wise. But fun-wise, 3. 3 ghosts for fun. Because, why? Because I don't know enough about the creature. I couldn't really get into the whole creature aspect of it. It just seems like they worked out things too easy. Also, I couldn't quite work out how many creatures there were. But I liked the deaths. And they were fun. They kept me glued to the screen, watching how the next person was going to die and how that would happen. You know what? There's one fucking really stupid death where one of the models gets, like, the creature catches her in a vine and drags her up. And she pulls out this knife. It's a really good knife. And you're thinking, great, she's going to be smart. She's going to cut the vine so she can get free. No, she fucking stabs the creature in the head, who then lets go of the vine and then hangs her and she dies. Like, how fucking dumb are you? Cut the vine. And anyway, so she contributed to her own death. Idiot. That was tutting. I think it's just known as tutting. The rest of it is just an additional subtitle for the movie. If you can find it, definitely give it a watch. It's a lot of fun. But, Night of the Killer Bears and Record are definitely more of the highlights of this video. Look, if you've seen any of the movies in this episode, please leave me a comment down below. If you know of any good popcorn films, I still have a lot of popcorn films to watch. So maybe you know of some good ones and I've got them in the chamber ready to watch. Drop a comment below. I've been loving the comments that I'm getting from a new regular viewer of the channel. I really appreciate the comments and thank you for giving me some best wishes about catching this stupid COVID. I really appreciate that. It's nice to read the messages and it's nice to have a community that kind of cares. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, I'll catch you next weekend. I don't know what movies I'll pick there. I've been getting some great suggestions about this particular, what is it, Kraus? Type movies. I have to look into that one. But subscribe if you enjoyed it. Otherwise, I'll catch you in one of the other videos on the channel. Keep watching stupid horror movies and make sure you let me know about them.